All right. Hey, everybody. Excited to get started here shortly. It is 1 Eastern here. We're going to give it a minute or two while people file in. We'll get started in just about a minute. While people are joining, for those that are here, feel free to type into the chat and tell us where you're all calling in from and joining from. I am here in New York City today. Marci, where are you?
I'm in Washington, D.C.
All right. All right. Where are folks coming in for Denver, Atlanta, Mechanicsburg? All right. Holy moly, all over the place.
Yeah.
There we go.
Wow. Every coast is being represented. I saw Canada.
There's people all over.
Yeah, center of the country. I see Chicago, Anchorage, Alaska. Amazing.
Yeah, New Haven, Connecticut. I was just in traffic there this past weekend on the 4th of July. So, right. Michigan, Minnesota.
Yeah. Florida, Hawaii. I'd like to be in Hawaii right now.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Not terrible.
No, it's all right. Traffic is typical from New Haven. Yeah. Yep.
South Carolina. I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina.
All right.
Yeah, it's great.
I am from Rhode Island, so I was on my way there dealing with the Connecticut traffic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we're gonna get started here in 1 second, one more minute. LA, Seattle.
Go birds.
Awesome. Well, really, really excited to chat with everybody. Why don't we go ahead and get started here? Head. Fantastic. So really, really appreciate everybody joining in today. We've got fun topic here, fireside chat for AEC execs, incorporating AI into marketing and BD strategy. So really, really interesting topic and excited to get going here. I'm Jason Janicki, the CEO at OpenAsset. For those that don't know, OpenAsset is a US and UK based company, tech company focused on providing solutions to AEC marketing and BD professionals. We've been around for nearly 20 years, so we've been around for a bit. We've got over 1,000 AEC firms using OpenAsset now. We started way back in the UK, and we're kind of a digital asset management provider, and we still do a lot of that. And we've evolved over time to offer document creation workflows for AEC marketers and BD folks. And we've just launched our AI proposal solution, Shred AI. So really, really excited to be here today. Thank you all for joining us. It's also my pleasure to be here today with Marci D. Thompson, CEO of SMPS. So, Marci, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jason. I'm excited for this conversation. Again, I am Marci Thompson. I am the CEO of SMPS and the SMPS Foundation. So, the Society for Marketing Professional Services, we are 52 years old. We are a member organization, and our community consists of over 7,300 marketers, business developers, some firm owners, and leaders across the AEC industry. Our members represent about 4,200 firms in the industry, and our mission is to transform business through marketing leadership. And increasingly, that means understanding and embracing technologies like artificial intelligence that are reshaping how we connect, create, and compete in the built environment. So, thank you, Jason, for having me today.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. And look, SMPS is an incredible Association, and does awesome work supporting and really empowering AEC marketers and BD professionals at all levels of their careers, which I think is great. And just in my conversations with you, it's like a genuine, to the core of what you guys are doing and to what you're doing is to really provide that platform and to empower these really talented marketing and BD folks. And so thank you for that. And yeah, I'm excited for us to continue our partnership with you guys.
Yes, thank you. We're thrilled for the continued partnership, and I think it's only going to continue to get better.
Fantastic. All right. House cleaning stuff. Before we get started, everybody knows how to do this. We're going to try to leave time for Q&A at the end. Feel free to submit questions through the Q&A button in Zoom. If we aren't able to answer your question due to time or that we don't know the answer, we will be sure to follow up with you afterwards. All right, fantastic. So today's topic is incorporating AI into marketing and BD strategy. It's really top of mind, great topic for folks in the industry right now. And we're going to cover a lot. So, how can you help your team embrace AI as a partner? We're going to talk about some implementation and adoption strategies. We'll go through some best practices in AI governance, and then kind of how we can alleviate some of the challenges in the proposal process. So lots to cover. And as Marci, you mentioned before we even got on this, everything we're going to say is probably going to be outdated in about six months anyways. So yeah, things are moving quick. But let's jump into it. So topic number one, helping your team embrace AI as a partner. So this is an interesting topic because I feel like there's actually been some shifting going on somewhat recently here. And so let me just kind of start off. You mentioned you've got your 7,300 plus members of SMPS. How are you hearing about folks? What are people saying and how they're embracing AI? Have you seen or heard of any shifts? Kind of just give us, kind of boots on the ground, what your members are saying.
Yeah, so I think it's been a major shift, Jason. 2 years ago, AI in our space felt theoretical to a lot of folks, and today it's on the front lines, and firms are figuring out how do we operationalize this technology in different ways. And so SMPS released last week Q3 AI insights from our foundation. And that research showed that 58% of AEC firms are now experimenting with AI in marketing and business development workflows. And that's up from 32% the year prior. And so you think about some of the common use cases include proposal generation, or image tagging, and thinking about how do you mine your internal data resources. The insight has been made very clear. AI adoption is happening and it's accelerating. And so firms are using AI to reduce the burden of repetitive tasks. They hope to free up their teams for the things that AI doesn't do, like strategic thinking. One marketing director has shared that AI lets us focus on telling the story and not chasing specs. And that's what we mean when we say AI supports the human, it does not replace a human.
No, I love that. And it's exactly what we're hearing as well. And I feel like there has been this shift recently, and you're backing it up with the data there. I feel like just anecdotally, the kind of the old, and I put old because it actually hasn't been very long, elephant in
Right.
the room was, is AI taking my job? I think we've crossed that chasm now, and it's not, is AI taking my job? It may not, but really another person effectively using AI very well may take your job,
Absolutely.
or may win that new business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's created a shift there, and it's not just an AEC thing. I see this in my own company, Marci. It's like I've got team members with very strong ethical opinions on AI written copy. I've got senior folks on my team, real masters of their craft, who are being forced way out of their comfort zone now. And then as we internally on our team, as we're looking at gaps and pain points and workflows that might be enhanced by AI, we also discuss the like, where do we need and want that human in the loop? So I think it's just the world we're in today,
Yes.
more than it is necessarily AEC or anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's super competitive in general. It feels even more and more competitive in AEC right now. And it seems like, and everyone should be leveling up in their use of AI, kind of like period, full stop. Um, and um, and we need to make sure that we're giving people that AI advantage.
Absolutely. I love that. We're giving them the AI advantage. I'm going to take that, Jason.
Well,
Thank
there
you.
you go. All right, takeaway.
Yes.
Let's talk about some use cases. I wanted to kind of bring a couple up here. One that actually came up a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was really interesting. Whether people feel like they can replicate this or not, I thought it was really telling. So, I was talking with a marketer, and she was a mid-level marketer. At a 140 person-ish architectural practice. They kind of based on her description of it, they weren't any more like behind in AI than anybody else. They were using some tools, they were making some progress, but what they did have is leadership. Really bought into wanting a cultural shift on it, in really a positive way. And so that's a huge thing that they had in their corner. And so kind of as we start to talk about like what are the keys to this, like that leadership buy-in, they had that check, right?
Yeah.
But like they didn't know how to execute it. So they went around in circles, they spent a whole bunch of time on it, and then um, the reality is they just made it a business-wide priority. Um,
Mhm.
they they started off, which was interesting. They gave management across the entire firm an AI boot camp. They really wanted leadership, bought in and like out in front and using it, right? Like walk the walk, talk the talk. And they also created a small group, which I don't know if you're seeing this more and more, like these kind of AI councils or committees have,
Yeah.
yeah,
These
um,
internal pilot groups, right? So
exactly.
yeah, we are seeing that investment. So it's and in both. It's here is our plan, it's our business priority, and they are dedicating staff. I know a firm
Mm,
that hired a team just to focus on their AI strategy and policy, and that is a contractor. And they
mm,
had hired a 5-person team. So, and that team is piloting and testing and experimenting and understanding the limits or guardrails they may need for that fit their firm culture. And so that is a worthy investment, certainly. So that is happening
yeah.
currently. So yeah, these internal groups. And it's not just, well, Marcy's going to have spend 2 hours a week away from marketing and business development to focus on this. There are firms that are investing in AI teams,
Yeah.
innovation teams. And so that we are seeing that, just to echo what you're saying, Jason.
100%. And it's becoming more of an operational role. Like
Hmm.
one thing that I've seen an uptick in recently in the last couple of years, and really it depends on the firm size, but you're seeing like a more investment in revenue operations or marketing operations and those functions, and you're starting to now see a bit more of that on just AI operations across the board.
Sure.
And so like this 140 person company, architectural practice, They did that. They didn't go external and hire new folks, but they brought their kind of brightest, most tech savvy, AI
Mhm.
forward staff, like kind of like their best of the best, their A players, across various teams. Put them on a team.
I love that.
That's now the team. So like they've got leadership. They then have kind of like their next level, kind of tech forward all
Mhm.
stars, and then those people together came up with what could be our KPIs, AI KPIs around larger business goals. So yeah, none of that seems that crazy, and it's probably happening more and more.
Yeah,
But the part of this story that was most interesting to me, and the part that I talk about, you're going to take that. I am already taking this for my team. The real engine and needle mover for them was weekly 2-minute Loom videos, like case studies, sent to the company, um, through Teams or Slack. I don't remember what they use, where different staff explain how they used AI and how it ties to the rate result and the KPIs. So you end up getting each week one video per week, one person per video, different departments. So it's rolling, right?
yeah,
And so it's not just design or PMs. You've got marketing, BD, HR, everyone represented. So it's very inclusive there. Um, and what this ended up doing a matter of a few months here, it really kind of shifted the culture, and
yeah,
that changes perspective. So you got leadership buy-in and visibility. You've got ongoing reinforcement of AI as a business priority, right? You've got some accountability and transparency, like everybody knows these KPIs and they get updates on them and they're on their dashboards and things like
yeah,
that. And then they tied in kind of the more human element of employee spotlights, which I love. I actually have to reminds me I need to go do one of those this week. But yeah, the weekly looms, it boosted morale,
yeah,
employee recognition, kind of highlighted some cool things that various teams are doing that nobody knows about.
yeah,
And it created like this healthy internal competition. Like, why is that person getting their video out there? And like, I'm in the same role with them. And so those are all good things. And so yeah, just in a couple months, they've gone all in on it. I am very interested to check back in with them to see how that
yeah.
evolves. Like that's a lot to keep that cadence and that pace. But they've bought in on it, and they're making a priority of it.
I love that. The interesting thing about having team members from different business units and departments is that their staff can see themselves in the progress of the organization. So it's not purely tech driven, it's
Yep.
not purely top down. It's we're all, every voice is being heard
Yeah.
at- and seen. And I think there is great value in that. So that culture shift, I do think that's a model. I'm also making a few notes, but I think that's a model worth replicating because everyone within a firm will likely use it for different things.
Yeah.
And I think that understanding how each group can benefit from AI, I think that will help with greater adoption going
Yeah.
forward. Yeah.
No, 100%. Like, I mean, I see it internally here. We have folks that start doing things, using AI tools on, to glean insights out of some of our, sales motions and our sales calls and our customer calls. And, our product team sees how you're doing it, and they start adapting and doing it, and, utilizing some bits of that in a different way. And so
Yeah.
that exposure is really, really, really healthy. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that's tough is the getting the leadership buy-in, because it is uh it's awkward. It's like an uncomfortable place to be as a leader sometimes on this stuff, because it's all new and you're not used to that.
Right. Well, look, being the first to do a thing and like
Yeah.
sticking your neck out there, and that is hard.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the hardest parts to say, because the buck stops with you, Jason. And so
Yeah,
people will always come back and say, well, Jason, you told us to do this, or
yeah,
Marci, you said that this is what we should do. And I'm just like,
yeah. Only if it works. I only
yeah,
said it if it
only if it
works.
works. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I didn't say
That's
that.
right.
No, I mean, look, I also think it gives AI gives lots of like in these approaches gives people a chance to shine
Yes.
and to level themselves up. And I think that's really what it's about. And it's like kind of at the heart of what we are trying to do here. We brought on Eric, our chief product officer, earlier this year, and he's really, really kind of brought in a different culture to our product team, which is great. But he's really leaned in, and the whole product team has really leaned into, um, you know, this kind of famous Fei Fei Li quote. And Fei Fei Li is a pioneer in AI, and she says. Artificial intelligence, not a substitute for human intelligence. It's a tool to amplify creativity and ingenuity.
Yeah,
And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, help people shine here. We're trying to get tools in these folks' hands. And like as you said earlier, empowering those AEC marketers and BD folks. There's a lot of opportunity there.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, good segue here into topic number two. AI implementation and adoption strategies. Um, so, so we want to increase people's impact. We want to amplify people with AI, but frankly, it takes work. So, Marci, in your career, can you relate anything that's going on here to any other bits of implementing of tech that you've seen in your career? Any strategies you've heard outside of what we've already talked about in terms of folks in AEC and things they're trying here for adoption?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first, I will say the pace is different with AI and maybe previous technologies, right? AI evolves so rapidly. I think what is needed is agility and not perfection. And so, what we're seeing in the firms that are doing this well, they are starting small. So,
Right.
using it for one thing first, and then having clear metrics around that one thing. So, for example, maybe they will leverage AI for uh, only the staff bios for proposals and the websites, right? Because it's repetitive, it's time consuming, but it's easy to validate, right? And so,
Right.
repetitive because we rewrite the bios with slight variations across the submittals and things like that. Like that's a starting place. And then, based on our recent insight, firms using AI for this type of small project are reporting 40 to 60% time savings in the draft phase. But the human still shapes the final proposal message. And so that's where voice and strategy are required, right?
Yep.
Some of the other things are offering hands-on training, including prompt engineering. So, you talked about the firm that has the team sharing a video per week. Well, perhaps they can use AI to create other resources to go with that video, and that
Yeah.
becomes the training catalog for
Yeah.
that particular business unit. Aligning the pilots with real pain points. So when you're piloting, you look through your workflow, you find a bottleneck. Well, aligning a strategy with one of the pain points and working that through. We're seeing that. And then, of course, implementing governance in parallel. Our SMPS AI policy for marketing BD, it recommends 4 E's. So educate, empower, execute. It's everything you have here, and evaluate. And the framework helps keep the things strategic. Yes,
Yep.
while building the internal capacity. So, I mean, Jason, it's everything that you have here. And I guess a question I would have for you, what's a good low risk AI pilot to start with? Like, what would you say is a good pilot, a use case?
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. I think um, I think that finding areas where you have annoyance
Ah,
and that creates friction is like a really good place to start because almost everybody will buy in then,
yeah.
right? And they'll be like, okay, yes, we are all frustrated by having to do this. Um, and then you get people kind of coalescing around it. Other bits where it's time savings and it's not that big of it doesn't feel like a massive pain point.
Mhm.
I feel like you end up with people put their guard up a little bit and it's more encroaching on them and what they can do. So I think starting with some of those kind of annoying friction points, like I know a big one that folks talk about in AEC here, this cross-functional friction between teams. We hear about marketing and SMEs and like content is
Mhm.
outdated or missing and whose fault is it? Or maybe the expert's not around, or maybe somebody in marketing is chasing the same person over and over and over again. Like this is like one of those classic annoying friction points.
Yeah.
And I think from that, you can then say, okay, I can get probably key people involved on this and we can set up the framework for a small, like, how can we measure this? Um, so that's just one that kind of comes to mind, but like I think it's really key, and that's kind of in the educate part as well of like, why are we doing this? Like, how does it relate back to some of our goals there? Why would we look at this as an area for us to pilot or try? I think there has to be that sell. Um, and then as we're going through this, because really, when I look at AI here, this is like one of the biggest change managements, initiatives that I've seen, because it is across the board. It's across every industry and it's across every team. So that is really, really difficult. And it's almost like overwhelming how many things to try. So I agree on the like try try some things, pick some low hanging fruit, pick some things that are super annoying to people that they will then find joy out of like it being resolved. And then they might try some of the kind of other ones on the other bigger projects. That's where I would lean. I I do think that kind of empowering part, we talked earlier about the leadership boot camps, like getting folks to buy in, like it does start at the top. Um, you've got to do all the execution. I actually think this is the hardest part, is the execution. Like, I think people will buy in for the most part to the reason why. I think if you can't get your leadership and various people to feel empowered and bought in, then you've got a bigger problem there. Um,
Yeah.
and execution, this is the ongoing training, upskilling, best practices. Like you said before we joined, it's all outdated anyways. Like it is evolving so fast.
So fast.
And I think AI adoption, it's like it requires thoughtfulness and a thoughtful application. And people need to practice at it. And so you just have to commit to that execution. And I think in change management, that is the hardest thing. People commit to it to try it, and then it falls off the rails. And I think this is a really big example of like you can't stop because it's already changed by the time you actually got people going on it.
Yes, I think to that point, Jason, you also have to have, when it comes to AI, you also have to have a commitment to sort of that lifelong learning because it changes so
Yeah.
rapidly. In 6 weeks, something that we thought was working perfectly is no longer an option because the technology has transcended that activity, right? That has
Yep.
happened.
Yep.
Um, and it's moving so fast. It's also, think about how the tech companies are trying to beat each other to market with new tools, and so because of all of that noise, You have to stay committed to learning and a deep understanding of how it's going to work with your firm's culture.
Yeah,
The thing that I am clear on, it's not one size fits all. I know, I'm sure everyone will agree with that. Like, how one firm uses it is going to be vastly different than the same size type firm next
100%.
door. And so I just think, you know, to your point, you have to stick with it. It's not something you're going to learn one time and then be
Nope.
a master.
No, no. And I think that um, I think that on this execution, one way to execute on this and one way to like stay on top of it is something that we're doing internally. Like you take that kind of really that all-star team of
Mm,
for your AI council, but like to be on that, everybody has to be committed on that team to being like in the loop, staying up to date on
yeah,
all the latest trends and how it, the trade latest trends in AI in general, but then really specifically on your function. So if I've got this, I've got a rock star AEC marketer who is now on my council. Um, she or he's got to now like stay in the loop daily. It's like daily
daily.
on, and like what we do is we try to like keep up and like providing them resources. But then after a little while, they're the ones sharing the resources out. So like you kind of can create these experts, even though you're never that full expert in some ways. I think that um, you know that is critical to it. Like they've got to be committed, like they to sign off to be in my council, like you have to be all in on like staying up to date on it.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that.
um cool. The and then the last part here, kind of seems like and of course we need
Yeah.
to evaluate if it's working or not. Um, but when you're dealing with change management and you're dealing with any of this stuff that people are either hesitant about, or you're trying so many things, you're doing so many pilots, you got to measure, measure, measure. And so a key part on this is establishing baselines or benchmarks of current performance, whether that's time or quality or whatever it is. Like you've got to come up with those benchmarks, then you got to track it over and over again, continuously, and you've got to align goals, right? And so with all of that, you can then be transparent and you adapt as needed and all those different things in evaluation. But one part that I would just stress to folks is um, yeah, taking the effort to set those baselines and benchmarks.
Absolutely.
Um, one actually one example of like something in our customer advisory board, we had
Mm,
it a couple weeks ago here in New York. We brought a bunch of AEC marketing leaders here, um, and there was a healthy, good conversation on metrics and KPIs, and then came around to benchmarks and all these things. And what became clear is a lot of them, and these are a range of different size firms, they didn't have that. They may have like industry benchmarks, but I
mm,
think one thing that is, each firm feels like they're a little different. They might approach things a little differently.
yeah.
There's obviously loads of variation and complexity of proposals and all of those. So there was a really interesting use case, really big multidisciplinary practice. Woman who was at the cab, she was talking about how they didn't have any benchmarks outside of what you could find online or ChatGPT.
Uh-huh.
Um, and but they had the internal debate of like, how are we going to measure all these things? How are we going to measure it? And it got a little contentious, right?
Uh-huh.
And so for her, what she did is she was like, I know we're using a whole bunch of tools now, but like we're going to go set our benchmarks. And so she came up with her set of common marketing tasks, like create a net new project sheet. We just did we're however many months into a new project. Let's create the project sheet, net new. How long does that take? With and without certain tools. Then it's like, how long does it take to do to update an existing project sheet? Um,
Yeah.
how long does it take to update the website on things? How long does it take to create a resume for new employees or update an existing resume? Award submission. So she did like she kind of laid all these out, and then um, proposal start to finish is the big one, right? And there's lots of complexity there, but she created kind of buckets of complexity. So like, based on the size of the proposal and things. And so that, by doing that, she was able to kind of back her way into creating benchmarks with and without certain tools. And she did a variety of tools. And then she was able to kind of like show those to the folks internally who had been saying, like, we don't have benchmarks, we don't have benchmarks, explained how they got there and the methodology. Everybody's bought in on them. And now they have that, right? They didn't have it before. They never tracked how long it took them to find certain things or all those things that people aren't tracking.
Right.
She went and did it. And so it just kind of is an example to me of just because you haven't been doing it, and even if you are starting to use AI proposal tools, you can go back and you can come up without a ton of work. You can commit to it to get those benchmarks because that's what you're going to want to test off of going forward.
Absolutely. I think that is a great example of, again, some of the work that has been done or has to be done, Jason. I think about um, how much time will be saved now that they understand it's it's difficult to manage what you aren't measuring. And so you don't
100%.
even know if you're being successful in these areas. Well, now they know because there's a way to measure. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Uh, um, the other kind of just one that jumped out to me, I guess, another use case, and this one actually came up yesterday, and so that's why it's kind of top of mind to me. I kind of mentioned the carrot approach of like everybody's feeling good. We got the Loom videos, we've got kind of the rewarding and like the like like that cultural change there that was really really positive. Conversation yesterday with a 650 person engineering firm. Um, they just got a notice internally that uh, like that AI adoption and use um, is now part of their annual performance reviews.
Oh, wow.
It's on their scorecard of all the different things
Oh, wow.
that they are required to do. So I am a whatever role, and I have all my normal job functions and responsibilities. Now, inherent to everybody in that company, they will have a conversation and room for improvement and what they're doing well all around AI adoption and use. And I thought that was really really interesting. I mean, that's a little bit more of like the stick approach, like
Yeah.
get on board, right? And
That's
it'll show up at
that's
annual
bold.
reviews.
Yeah, that's bold.
Yeah,
That is bold. I would love to check back in to see how
yeah,
that is adopted and really and how well it's received.
yeah. I
That
think
is bold.
she was not turned off by it. The messaging around it was okay-ish, but it was just all aligned of like this is a business initiative, and I think, right. I mean, I guess performance reviews are interesting, like how much that ties to all sorts of things and salaries and things
Sure.
like it. But just the idea, if there will at least be an ongoing scheduled conversation about how are things going with your use of tools that are supposed to help you do better,
Yeah.
um, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I'm looking in the chat as well and one of our colleagues said, the best way you need leadership buy-in, but just dive in. And that is certainly
Yeah,
having an accountability metric, something
yeah,
tied to your performance related to a business priority. I mean, we would do that in every related to every other business priority, right? If there was,
100%.
we have it related to revenue and all those things. So, but that's bold.
Yeah,
And but I honestly think that um, those types of moves firms that do things like that, they will have a competitive advantage. I mean, I don't think that you can go at it afraid. I think you have to just do it.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean,
yeah, that's
that's,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, that's clearly a moment of, this may rub some people the wrong way, but like they need to get on board because this is the way we're going, type of
Yeah,
thing. And, you know, um, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think, you know, for for AI, like anything else and any other change management and adoption, we just need to really lean in, and people are going to have to be coming up, teams are going to have to be coming up with like the best practices, using them, like all of that's going to have to be really, really critical for folks. And you know, if we really want to enable them, like, you got to stay at it. So
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
cool. Speaking of best practices, let's transition over to topic number 3, best practices for AI governance. Really top of mind for folks here. And really, Marci, SMPS has done a lot of work on this, a lot of good effort to arm you know, members and AEC firms with strategies and guardrails for AI governance. First, why has this been such a focus for SMPS, and what are the results so far on these efforts?
Yeah. So, well, trust is the foundation, right? And based on this most recent insight, nearly 3 in 4 firms say their biggest barrier to implementation is the lack of governance. And so we developed an AI governance policy, and I'm looking in the chat, and one of our colleagues said, the leadership is bought in, but the IT department is freaking out about the security issues, or, and so that is why governance
Yep.
is important, because it will allow firms to adopt
Yep.
responsibly, if you will. When we think about our policy for from SMPS, it's about transparency. So, things like, are you labeling your content that's AI generated? Like, is there a marker? Are you clear about what's AI generated and what's not? Human oversight. So it's not you just put it in the engine and whatever it spits out, that's what we publish. No, all outputs have to be reviewed. Data privacy, everything related.
Yep.
We talked about, we're talking about, I see that in the comments. Bias mitigation, understanding, reviewing your content for fairness and inclusivity. Brand integrity. Does it reflect the firm's values? And so we're seeing that firms with governance policies in place, they're accelerating while protecting their reputation. Some firms are starting with, and I saw this comment earlier, I've been trying to make some notes, but firms, a part of their policy, the policy may be simple, and it's simply that this is the only tool you are allowed to use. So
Yep.
many firms have adopted Copilot. I saw that comment in the
Sure.
chat. And so you can only use Copilot. This is the type of information you're allowed to put in. And it's not just, your Copilot. It's one paid for by the firm, because that protects our proprietary content and all of those things. And because of that type of simple start, um, we're seeing greater adoption and a willingness to try and to learn more about this technology that's not going anywhere. It's been here. It's not new. It's just how we're using it for business. It is new, but
Yeah.
that is what sort of, it is not, the policy isn't about restriction, it is about protection. And how
Yeah.
do you
100%.
protect? Because here's the thing, lots of people are using AI and putting your firm at risk. So without policy and without a direction on how it can be used, you can be putting, your employees could be putting your firm at risk. So at least a baseline policy of what is allowed. Yes, The policy offers the guardrails. Thank you, Carrie. That is the
Yeah.
word, right? Stay in
Yep.
the safe lane. Here's what is allowed. This is what keeps us safe, keeps our proprietary intelligence safe, and helps you to, um, you know, create capacity.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what we're seeing. Um,
Yeah. That's really it's interesting. All of that is incredibly important, and firms are going to take different approaches on it. And I commend you guys for pulling together all the templates and like
yeah.
getting folks going, because what I see with this is like paralysis, right? It's like we want to do it, but we're waiting on the governance details. We've got all these various concerns, and like they are really legitimate concerns. But from a leadership perspective, this is something where like you got to come in and be like, then let's get on with it, and like let's push this forward, and like dedicate the effort to everyone getting comfortable and knowing kind of the range of that comfort level. So I
Yeah.
think what you guys have done here is probably kicked a bunch of firms forward just by like helping them get started. But it is
It
super
is a
top of mind. Yeah,
it is a starting place, and I'll tell you the benefit is that we've done the with the templates, we've done the work that you would have to pay your attorney to do
exactly.
to get started. So what you could do is take the template, add in what your parameters are for your firm specifically, and then you take that to your attorney. Our attorney has the SMPS attorney has reviewed and confirmed, all of the policy guidelines, um, and they have made sure it's aligned with the current law of today. Again, those
Yep.
things change rapidly. However, it is the
Very.
starting place. And so instead of having to spend the hours and paying your attorney $7,000, $10,000, depending on how that works within your firm, this is a starting place. You, again, add in the parameters that align with your firm's values, the culture, and then you take it to your attorney for final review. And then you have a baseline policy,
Yep.
because starting from scratch is very expensive.
Yep. No, 100%. And look, all these conversations have to happen. And I know people are
Yeah.
saying IT's putting up blockers. Like they're doing the right thing. They want just,
Yes.
and I think the interesting thing is, and somebody mentioned in the chat, like talking about like people's personal use of AI tools.
Yes.
There,
Yes.
there is so much of that now that I think there's a little bit of a like, okay, well, that's your personal data. We have to have a different level
Yes.
of security and compliance and all these things as a firm, as a company, and like that
Exactly.
training of like what's okay, what you're willing to be risky on personally is different than us as a company. But
Right.
that makes it tough because everybody's jumping into personal use of AI tools.
Yeah.
Um,
You're so right about that. Yes. Yes.
and just like quickly, because I'm cognizant of time here, um, we have loads of material on our trust center about AI governance, security, SOC 2, Type 2 compliance, all those different things. Um, it's very important. And so take a look. If you need any additional, people have any questions on it, look, we are training our teams on all the laws and the risks and responsible use and all those different things. And so it's really important to pick a partner with clear details on how they're using your data, what, if any of it gets incorporated in models that are being trained, all of those things, really important. And yeah, it's top of mind. And if you're interested in ours, all available online. So one other bit, as we kind of move forward here on AI governance and our personal approach is that principle of maintaining a human in the loop, and that gets talked about a lot, but we're really committed to making sure that AI systems augment a human's decision making and expertise. It's really kind of directly shapes how we're designing AI tools, So kind of thinking of that and kind of with that human in the loop, we will kind of transition forward to uh, the challenges that these humans are facing
Uh-huh.
in the proposal process, and specifically how folks can use AI potentially to alleviate those challenges. And so, uh, obviously, proposal process, hot topic for lots of reasons. There's
Yeah.
the biggest reason is there's lots of challenges there, lots of time spent, lots of money spent on it, and there's opportunity for AI tools to really augment AEC marketers and BD professionals. So Marci, pursuit management, proposal creation, an enormous part of your members' jobs and responsibilities. What struggles, challenges, opportunities are you hearing from your members related to this?
Yeah, so look, I'll be brief. Burnout from volume, I'm sure everyone on the line can attest to the exhaustion, right?
Yep.
And then a reactive culture, right? Or how much time are we spending formatting versus thinking about putting our best foot forward in the next pursuit? And then the skepticism, that's number three. Will AI content sound like us?
Yeah.
Do we lose our identity, our voice by leveraging AI? So those have been sort of the key challenges. Um, and our response is that, AI can simply be the draft and the people shape the final message. Speed plus strategy. That's really what I think about. And so, Jason, I want to just punt it back to you. How
Yeah.
all helping in
N-
this moment.
No, 100%. And like we hear all of that same,
Yeah.
feedback, and look, I mean, a it's taking up huge portions of marketing and BD folks' time. Everybody knows that. It's probably still going to take up big portions, but like maybe we can limit some of like the tedious work so that they can be more strategic on the important parts of the proposal, right? Marketers can spend 2 to 4 weeks on a proposal. The go no go process feels hit or miss, and AEC marketers, it's a super high stress, high pressure job. People submitting on the last day, all of this, we all know
Mm,
this. But, you know, from working with AEC marketers for so long, like we have, and we see it at every SMPS event, there are loads of incredibly tech savvy, hardworking, multitasking wizards in AEC marketing, and I think it's a massively hard job. And I'm honest when I tell my team that I honestly believe we owe it to them to to provide amazing tools. We should be doing the things that try to help make AEC marketers flourish. So if we go back to that, that quote, AI is that tool to
mhm.
amplify creativity and ingenuity, and that's really what we're trying to do with our new product Shred. So we're trying to help clear that way of all the annoyances and pain and repetition so you can be more creative and to amplify and empower. And so what is Shred? Shred is your proposal management engine. First, and I'm going to quickly run through some key kind of workflows, quickly chat and glean insights from your proposal library, manage your go no go. You can go ahead and uh, manage your pursuits. So create the pursuit, upload your RFP. It's going to automatically shred it and pull out key response criteria, so you're assured your proposal is going to be compliant. It's going to analyze the RFP. It's going to better understand goals and challenges of the client, and it's going to create an easy proposal management plan so you can get started on your proposal really quickly. And then I think where it really starts to move the needle, and I think those other things move the needle, but like where we're really trying to make sure we have a really elegant, exciting workflow is on that proposal draft generation. So Shred's going to go ahead and recommend content both from your proposal library and OpenAsset if you have OpenAsset. It's going to rank your recommendations. You can use those recommendations. You can also search and select additional content. But really, again, that marketer is the one that's then starts to build that draft. She or he decides which content they want to use, which content they want to take verbatim over. We nailed it that time. We're going to use it exactly. It fits what we're trying to do now, or I'm going to bring it over and now I'm going to edit in line and manually modify it. And then, if you want, you can even use AI to adjust that content. Now, there's definitely comments and questions on that one, and we can jump into that because I think that is a real interesting one on like how people feel about AI. Um, Writing or adjusting copy. It's going to give you response scores for compliance, and then you can go ahead and export all of that out into InDesign. And so we're super excited about it. We've been working with early adopters for the last couple months, which has been a lot of fun for us, and they've really challenged us in a lot of ways. As AEC marketers do, which is great. And one of the big takeaways from talking with their firms it's not just the marketing times savings. It's also those SMEs and leadership folks that you can kind of take out of the loop a bit more here. So it's a team game. We're definitely excited to help where we can with all the players on that team. So look, I know we've only got a little bit of time here. We aren't new to AEC. We've been around for nearly 20 years, and to be honest, we're super excited about the next 20 years. We're all in on it, and over 1,000 firms are using OpenAsset as that content engine. They are, and I'm proud of that. And those 1,000 firms are, storing all their project data and images and bios. They're sharing content. They're creating thousands of project sheets and resumes, and launching them into InDesign and Word like every single day right now. Tens of thousands of AI searches every single day looking for content. There are tens of thousands of files that are now integrated between OpenAsset and InDesign documents in use every single day. And so OpenAsset is a big piece, central piece in that AEC tech ecosystem. And we're going to continue to double down on that. But we also listen to our customers, and we're, working hand in hand with them. And we're excited about a new approach to streamlining some of the proposal pain and key parts of that process. So yeah, excited about it. You know,
It's a
uh,
lot to be
y-
excited about.
yeah, no, and look, we're also really excited about the value and the power we can bring on kind of end-to-end cohesive platform here, and where we believe OpenAsset and Shred kind of complement and supercharge each other in exciting ways, and a lot more to come there. I know we've covered a lot today, and I just flew through some basics on Shred. But if you're interested in learning more, please book a demo with us. Our team is ready to dig in and take you through the demo, talk all things open asset, Shred, marketing, BD needs. We'd love to chat. In addition to that, for in addition to the Shred and open asset demos, please go ahead and access the latest SMPS reports, the SMPS AI governance templates. They really do help pushing things forward internally for you. And yeah, we are close to time here, but like I definitely want to get some questions in. We've had a bunch.
Yeah.
Marci, should we open it up for some questions?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, let me see here.
So I jumped around the questions. I do want to because SMPS is all about lifelong learning. I want to address the one question is that talked about continuous learning. The question is continuous learning is needed. I could see this leading to burnout due to constantly relearning and never feeling like you get to the expert level. And that's a great question. And I don't think it's about, I think it's about continuous improvement and not perfection. And
Yeah,
so with that, just a commitment to stay, you know, because it can certainly feel overwhelming. And we
Yeah.
often hear there's the tension between the need to keep learning and the desire to feel grounded and confident. And so it doesn't mean constant chaos, but giving yourself and your team the permission to grow incrementally. And so maybe I've been trying to reframe some things. So maybe we redefine, expertise and think about um, what it means to experiment thoughtfully and then apply what we're learning. And then I'm thinking through sort of like these learning culture where
Yeah.
if one person learns it, they're sort of the lead, and then they are sort of bringing folks along and providing debriefs and things like that, like breaking up the responsibility of who needs to do what. But our hope is that I hear what you're saying, and I totally you don't feel alone in that because
Yeah.
we feel it as well. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
Jason, if there's a question,
Yeah, no, there's a whole bunch of questions.
there's lots of questions.
One from Ali. Internally, there have been people have been hesitant with the concern that clients are wary of AI and proposal content generation. What is your take on it? This is ongoing conversation internally here, ongoing conversation with our early adopters, with when Rochelle, who's on our team, she has strong opinions on this as well. I think it's really interesting. I think that, and to be honest, there's some RFPs that are coming out that are, saying that they don't want AI involved in the proposal creation. And so, like, how do you adjust to that? It's like, well, what's the line? Is it the content creation or is it the finding the content? Like, there's some interesting things that I'm not sure we know the lines on that.
Yeah.
For us, our default is, suggesting verbatim. Here is what you have used before. Um, and then bringing it in. And if you want to adjust it in, you can do that. But we do have the ability for you to take that text that you've created before and modify it through AI. And I think it's going to be an interesting one to see how that gets adopted over time. It's definitely top of mind. So I think that's a good question. There's another question here. Speaking of using pilots to get buy-in, many of the vendors are asking for a hefty pilot period phase. We don't want to commit to an annual contract. How do you get buy-in to pay for pilot period? That's really interesting. And I'd love to talk with you about what some options we could take for that. We're doing a number of things with our early adopters, and I think it's really important for us to show value, and so we're committed to that. And so I'm not just giving a vague answer. I'd like to chat with the person who asked that and see what we can do for you, what's worked, what hasn't for you before, and how we could address that.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have here?
I see one. It says, do we need to cite our sources AI on proposals? Our team is split. We just want to do the right thing. And that's a great question. And it's common. And so just a short answer. I don't think there's a formal rule on it, but there are ethical best practices, right? And so I would recommend transparency as a guiding principle, period. And so in the SMPS governance policy, we don't require a footnote every time AI is used, but it does emphasize that internal clarity and it does emphasize internal clarity and human accountability. So a basic framework could be like internally, the team should be aware of when and how AI was used, like your internal team. And then externally, if AI was used in a way that can influence the integrity, like generating data or imagery, then yes, I would consider disclosing that in a footnote. But for AI assistant writing that's been human curated and fully reviewed, we don't I don't think that disclosure is generally required. But staying aligned with what your firm's value and voice is, I think that's what is most important. And doing the right thing is what matters. So the right thing today may evolve as your clients want different things. I mean, I think it was just shared, some proposals say you can't use this, you can't use that. And so my advice is that you just stay transparent and stay human led and just document the process. So there's always a record of how you did what you did. So
Yeah.
that's how I would answer that one.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this best practice evolves.
Yes.
I don't know the answer on that. I would actually, I think it would be interesting to go back
Yeah.
and whoever sent out the RFP, ask them what their preference is on this.
Yeah.
And just to
That's
get
good.
like some ballparks on it, like, look, we as a firm, we ethically have adopted AI. What do you want? Where do you want us to clarify this? What types of
Yeah.
things? Um, and I think you're right, probably on the images. The text is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm not sure I know the answer on that one. That's a good one. We'll do a couple more. I know we're
Okay.
up on time, but like there's a bunch here. We've been stuck on unstructured proposal content. How does your platform know which is the most recent or best answer? Um, yeah, this is really interesting, and where I can tell you where we are with it now, and like kind of where we think it's heading. So relevance is based on several aspects. Uh, the client is one, and we kind of like rank them. If you've done work for this client before, those things might be interesting and kind of pop to the top. Same type of project, services requested, geographic location, recency matters here as well. There's a bunch of ways, and we want to give people more flexibility on how they rate those. But that in general is where it's going for the unstructured content. Um, what we've also been doing is figuring out like how do you then balance in the structured content, the open asset content. Like if that is approved content and that's recent, does that come to the top of the list? And so we are working through, with our early adopters, like what would that, what should that look like? But that hopefully gives you an idea of how we're doing it. All right. Uh, let's go ahead. Uh, So I am hearing that AI is freeing AEC marketing professionals up to strategize. However, in many cases, is more the job of business development leaders versus proposal creators. Won't the job of proposal creators who are designing and writing, fine-tuning content be taken away? What will there be left for those who are focused on developing the physical proposal to do once nearly the entire assemblage of the proposal will be handled by AI? How many strategists does a company really need? Really interesting one there. I've got
Yeah.
some thoughts on it. What are you hearing? Is this a common question in SMPS and the membership?
Well, it is a common question. And what we're hearing is that, the job of proposal creators, of course, it will not go away. Now, how will it evolve? Right. And so um, maybe it'll shift from the compiling component to sort of a curator. And what I mean by that is instead of the hours of formatting or hunting down boilerplate language, they will spend the time tailoring the narratives and elevating the overall messaging to reflect voice, the firm's voice and the client's needs. So and then the physical proposal, I'm going back and forth between the question, just trying to, you know is there an opportunity for AI to help with organizing the bones of a proposal? And then there's, again, more time to focus on the storytelling, the differentiation, the nuance, right? Because that's the thing that I think AI won't do, right? It's not going to present your authenticity, and it won't address the nuance. And so I I think there may just be an opportunity to rebalance what proposal leaders are focused on um, in the process. Um,
I think it's I think this is an interesting one, like how it will evolve over time. If the bar starts to get raised and everybody's using these tools, how are you going to differentiate in your proposal? You still have to differentiate to win here, and I think that you're going to get have a lot of openings and opportunity for marketers to be at that table in that strategy session. I also wonder, and like I don't know the answer to this, will you start to see more hybrid marketing BD folks? I don't know the
mhm,
answer to that.
I don't know
I
the answer
know
to that.
I know that I see that in other industries where there's starting to be a little bit more of a consolidation, and needing to do a bit of both. I'm not sure where that goes, but I think it's a very interesting one.
Yeah, it's a good
Um,
question.
yeah, it really is.
And I think it has to continually be asked because we're as things evolve and as we understand how marketing and business development leaders are using the technology, I do think that's going to drive what is left, right? And the parts of the job that currently are being neglected. But yeah, I think it's not I think I know that that is a critical question. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
And hopefully in the future I will have a better answer for you.
Yeah, no, I think I think we're all going to see on that one. That's a very interesting
Uh,
one. We'll just do another one or two. Regular AI usage lessens the need for critical thinking, retrieving information in one's mind, and developing writing skills in professionals. Is there an ethical responsibility of the company to ensure they are still mentally challenging their team members and that their minds aren't being dumbed down, or is that solely personal responsibility to fight the mental effects of a company's push for AI usage?
oh wow.
That's another biggie right there.
That is a great question.
Yeah, I guess, and I'm trying to think it through here. I don't feel like my team's use of AI is um, taking away their critical thinking or dumbing them down. Um, I think it's speeding them up and it's allowing them um, uh, to focus on some of the harder bits. It's giving them a little bit more time to do the hardest parts that
Ah,
still require their work. So I actually don't feel like that. And like, but it is an interesting one. Like, look, there's all sorts of tools out there, in for product development. AI based tools. It's the biggest, the most growing field there is, are tools for developers out there, and there are concerns on like, are these folks going to know how to code anymore? Are they just going to trust? And where's that line? I do think that part of it moving forward is um, you're part of the expectation is that you know you're going to have to be good at using these tools. These are part of the team now, and
ah,
it feels weird, but I think
yeah.
that's just part of it.
Yeah, this is
Loaded one.
a not an easy question, and I
Mm,
say that um, I do think that we have to be intentional that when using tools, that it doesn't make us think less, right? So I remember I'm aging myself, but I remember when we could use our start using our TI-81 calculators, right?
yeah.
And we started computing differently. And I think there is absolutely an ethical responsibility on both sides from leadership and individuals. Um, I think that if AI handles the busy work, so that professionals have more time to focus on strategy, that's not less of a reason to use your judgment. And so I just think that we should um, continue to challenge ourselves, challenge our teams with the complex problems, with client interactions, and sort of as you develop the narratives, make sure we are doing the things that AI can't replicate. And then, as an individual, I think that we have to be thoughtful about using AI, as you said, Jason, as a partner and not a crutch. Like,
Yep.
um, leverage it to get started, but not to do the thinking for you. So I do think this is
Yep.
it's complex.
It is.
It's complex. Well, I will say it's complex for me, but I
It's
think it's
complex for
both.
me.
It's and
Um,
both. Yeah.
the other one that's complex that I've seen a number of people, and I 100% appreciate. One of the things about this industry I really appreciate is, while it's the built world, we have nearly all of our customers, I would say, a real kind of interest in how this impacts the environment.
Oh
And so
yes,
there's a lot there.
absolutely.
I don't have the silver bullet answer on this. I don't know who does on this. Um, for us, we're trying to pick energy efficient models, partnering with cloud providers committed to it. I think they said, like, one of the questions was, you know, excluding offsets. I mean, we're doing offsets, but those are tough things. And I think
They are.
the hope is that over time that this gets more efficient. I would say I don't have the end all be all answer on this one, but it is top of mind. We have initiatives internally, and it is topic of discussion in our company as well. So awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, we've Marci, I think we've gone 15, 17 minutes over
Yes,
here. I
yes.
think that's all right.
This has been great though. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Marci, thank you so much for joining me on this. I really, really appreciate it. Everybody who's joined in, and there's loads of questions. We're going to try to go through, because there's a bunch in the chat too. We're going to try to
Yeah,
reach out to folks and answer these as many as we can for you, for whatever we missed. So thank you, everybody. Hope you have a
thank
great
you.
day. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you.